Let's speak to Giorgio Cafiero, the CEO of Gulf State Analytics, who is in San Francisco at the moment. Giorgio, thank you so much for your time. Overall, how damaging is what's happening now to Washington's relationships with its allies in the Arab world?
Well, there's no doubt that as a consequence of the Biden administration's ironclad support for Israeli policies toward Gaza, there is a tremendous amount of anti-American sentiment spiking all over the Arab and Islamic world. Now, many of these governments are very close to the United States. Many of the governments in the Arab region depend on the United States for their security, and they're very close to the U.S. for many reasons. But they also have to consider what their own populations think. And the Palestinian issue is one that we know can quickly mobilize Arabs all over the Middle East. And right now, the governments have to strike a delicate balancing act between maintaining their partnerships with the U.S., but also being in touch with what their own populations feel. And there's no doubt that there's a lot of pressure on these Arab governments to voice their disagreements with the Biden administration and to express a lot of solidarity with the Palestinians. This will make it much more difficult for the United States to work with these governments in the weeks, months, and years ahead.
If Israel is going to press ahead with its aim of completely destroying Hamas, if this is a seminal moment in Israeli history in terms of it using the moment right now to gain security for decades to come, which possibly it's doing because of its actions also in occupied territories, which the UN is extremely worried about, do you see this actually lasting for possibly even a few years, if that is the Israeli aim of this particular government?
Well, I think we need to keep in mind that the actions that Israel is taking right now toward Gaza, these war crimes, this ethnic cleansing, is going to further radicalize the Palestinians. I also would challenge this notion that Israel's military is going to be able to destroy Hamas. Of course, Hamas is very much about ideas, and you can't destroy ideas with bombs. There's also a Hamas presence in the West Bank, in Lebanon. So Hamas is going to remain a relevant player in the conflict between the Palestinians and the Israelis, regardless of what happens in Gaza in this upcoming period of time. But I think it's pretty clear that Israel is not going to bomb its way into being more secure vis-a-vis groups inside Gaza. There have been so many past Israeli bombing campaigns of Gaza. None of those prevented what happened on October 7th. Is there something Israel is doing this time around that's going to result in Gaza disarming for good and giving up in this conflict? I have a very, very difficult time believing that that's possible.
Giorgio, does anybody really know how strong and how well armed Hamas is, how big its membership is, and what sort of material it has to be able to resist one of the strongest armies in the world, and certainly in the Middle East?
I think on October 7th, many people around the world, including people who hate Hamas, people who support the Hamas, were taken aback by what it was capable of doing on October 7th. I don't know exactly where Hamas's standing is, how popular it is among Palestinians in Gaza or Palestinians at large, but it is clearly much more than a ragtag militia. It obviously is a group on the ground in Gaza that is capable of posing an enormous security threat to Israel, and this is something the whole world obviously observed on October 7th.
Giorgio Cafiero, thank you so much, Giorgio.